the meeting to order, please. Call the roll.
Mr. Bruley?
Here.
Mrs. Escalante?
Here.
Mr. Monk?
Here.
Mr. Rickman?
Here. A quorum has been established. Next on the agenda, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a housekeeping note before we begin. We'd ask all to silence your phones or put them on vibrate because this is a business meeting. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, the citizens' comments. This is the portion of the meeting where you, the citizens, can address the board with your question, comments, or inquiries. Be mindful that you have 3 minutes to make your appeal. Also be mindful that we ask that you stand, come to the mic, state your name and address. And last but not least, I ask that you address all comments to the chair. The agenda is now open for citizens' comments.
Good evening. These are never set up for short people. Thanks, Patrick. My name is Christy Nickel. I currently reside at 155 Cass Avenue, room 232. I have had the pleasure of teaching in this great district for many years. Actually, in 50 school days, I will have completed my 16th year of teaching. Not that I'm counting or anything. I'm here today to tell you, the board, about the good things that are happening in my classroom and in Mount Clemens High School every day. Since our principal walked in 4 years ago, he has challenged his staff to build relationships with students and deliver content in ways that meet their needs. We must challenge our highest achievers while offering multiple avenues towards success for our struggling learners. He has shared with us multiple strategies and techniques to do just that. Honestly, I have embraced many of his ideas and incorporated them for all of my students because they are just good teaching practices. Our list of strategies is double-sided, and we keep adding new ideas all the time. So far, my favorite has been game-based learning. I teach science. We like the fun stuff. The best thing I have received from him, however, is honest feedback about my teaching practices. From my first and in every evaluation since, I have been given praise for what I do well, constructive criticism for what needs to change, and suggestions for how to work towards those changes. Fast forward to today. In my classroom, students participate in discussions, group activities, projects, class presentations, and a multiple of other things. Similar things are happening in other rooms too. I hear the moans and groans from the kids. Oh my, here we go again, which is awesome because we're making them think. Just having the peace of mind of knowing I can try new things, be creative in my delivery of instruction, challenge my students to think differently, and know I will receive honest and meaningful constructive feedback is so gratifying as a professional. Under his leadership, we are valued for our variety of skills. We have had input into what goes on in our own classrooms. He has helped several teachers develop courses that are meaningful to our students and spark their interest in learning. We now have a class on African American literature and arts, hip-hop music and poetry, comic and graphic novel writing, as well as African American history. I'm assuming that is my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, ma'am. Floor is still open for citizens' comments.
My name is June Aquario. I live at 39 Lincoln Street. I've been a volunteer in the Mount Clemens School District for many, many years. And since the conflict resolution forum that they had, I have seen a tremendous increase in students' positiveness. And I've also seen the desire to be involved as organized groups. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
Mark Bates, 22 Miller, Mount Clemens, Michigan.
I've been a teacher for 26 years, 22 of those here in Mount Clemens. I'm also a graduate of Mount Clemens. I have been through more principals and vice principals than I can count over the years. But here's one for the first time where I can say, A, he's been here, he wants to be here, he wants to make this place better. He has worked beyond anything that I can comprehend to try to change our atmospheres. He has worked to create new classes, new clubs. He has taken on the chess club by himself. He has done Quiz Bowl by himself. He has done everything to try to make these kids better by bringing in new ideas and new things. I haven't always gotten along with the things that he said, but rather than criticize or tell me no, he sat down and explained himself, talked about it, and we've worked through it. He works with the staff instead of telling us, here's what I would like to do. Tell me what you think. Let's work together so that this works. It's not my way or the highway. It is an all-inclusive group coming together to solve our problems. He listens and gives advice. He's the first principal I've ever had that says, I will walk into your room and I will teach a lesson for you so that you can see how I think you should be doing things. That is different than anyone who has ever been around before. He's in the hallways. He's in our classrooms. He makes comments and says, hey, I like what you did here. I would do this next time. It's not a criticize. It's a, I'm going to help you get better. And even though we don't always agree, I can say I know I can walk in there at any time and say, here's what I'm feeling, what do you think? And he's willing to listen. He's the only principal since I've been in a school that has ever been spoken about in a union meeting and put in the notes as a positive thing about how much we appreciate what he does for us. It's time for people to recognize what he does. We have issues. We've always had issues. We're trying to fix those, and he's a big part of why we are starting to get better.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name is Natalie Porter. I reside at 155 Cass Avenue in the main office. I am here to speak about Principal Gibson. Since becoming an employee of Mount Clemens High School in September 2017, I've received endless support from Mr. Gibson, and I have watched him be just as supportive with his entire staff. I've witnessed his brainstorming of ideas and strategies. Sometimes he'll run them by me and help the middle school and the high school grow. As an administrative assistant who also serves sometimes as his assistant, I see firsthand how hardworking and passionate Mr. Gibson is about the success of this school. In the short time I've been here, I have unfortunately been in a position to run the front office of both middle and high school by myself twice. Once for 6 weeks last year, 2018, and then again recently for about 2 months at the beginning of this year. And during those difficult, high-demanding, and seemingly impossible work days, Mr. Gibson worked daily, hands-on to assist me with the workload, as well as consistently followed up with the hiring process of when someone would be hired to assist me permanently. The fact that I had lost support in the main office was not of his doing. He had no control over the decisions that were made to leave me in that situation both times. However, that did not stop him from doing everything he could to assist me. I can honestly say that I've received more support from Principal Gibson than any other administrator in this school district. Being a part of a team here at Mount Clemens is hard work and can sometimes get stressful and hostile, but I can always depend on my boss to give me support as well as correction. Any input received, any constructive criticism given is always in the best interest of this school. The culture and atmosphere of the front office has become a small family. Our students, parents, and families know our faces, and they know our names. They are comfortable with knowing the staff and having built rapport. I have never received a complaint about Principal Gibson, and I hear all of them. We're the front line. Having already gone through a few difficult transitions in less than 2 years, I fear that another transition without the support of Principal Gibson would not be as successful. I certainly don't know that I could have made it through the rough days without him. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jacob Williams. I live at 26513 Larchmont, St. Clair Shores, Michigan. I am a Mount Clemens High School senior, and I am here today to speak about Mr. Gibson. Since I have been at Mount Clemens High School, Mr. Gibson has been nothing but devoted. He makes it a point to engage with students. He makes it a point to make sure our voices are heard. He makes it a point to make sure we have the tools we need to succeed. He makes it a point to be present. We here at Mount Clemens High School love and highly respect Mr. Gibson and could not imagine the school without him. Let it be known that in my hand right here are 180 signatures of students in opposition of the non-renewal of our principal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. I'm Josh Supchak. I reside at 155 Cass Avenue, room 10. It has come to my attention that Mr. Gibson may not be returning to the school next year. First and foremost, I cannot stress enough the excellent qualities of his presence in the building. Staff feels comfortable with him. He's an objective administrator that does not let his personal feelings cloud his judgment or demeanor, which is a rarity in public education. He regularly makes appearances in our classroom and gives us feedback to improve our craft. He organizes debates, contests, and extracurricular activities for our students that they and staff alike enjoy greatly. With me alone, he has helped develop elective courses such as hip-hop and poetry, African American literature and arts, and has helped revive our theater program. In short, he has exceeded all expectations that any of our staff has had in terms of a principal. I also think he is an incredibly fair and honest leader. He knows that even if we don't like what he says, 100% of the time, he is doing it in the name of student growth and staff growth, and his decisions are the right ones. He wants us all to grow as educators and our students to grow as learners. I understand the concern about test scores, student enrollment, and the other issues that have plagued the district. However, I find it necessary to acknowledge that Mr. Gibson has little to do with it, if anything at all. In fact, I encourage all of you to get to know the staff a little bit more since we're the ones in the trenches every day. These issues that plague the district are certainly not the result of the one person that regularly comes into our classrooms to observe us and give us support. They are not the result of the one person that was a classroom teacher for many years, and they are not the result of the one person that regularly looks at our lesson plans and gives suggestions, questions, and helps us improve our teaching, helps compile learning resources, and gives constructive feedback on a regular basis. Mr. Gibson is the best advocate that our students and our staff have. In short, please strongly consider this from a practical and objective perspective and renew his contract. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Daniela Richard. I reside at 155 Cass Avenue, room 203. I'm here tonight to discuss my thoughts about a grievous act on the agenda about removing Mr. Joe Gibson from the Mount Clemens family. Mr. Gibson wears many hats. For example, he is in charge of a building that is 6th to 12th grade. Having a middle school and a high school combined brings with them their own needs. Yet he has found ways of managing those individual needs to help each student, no matter what grade level or socioeconomic problems they may have. He has implemented dozens of new motivational ideas to better reach our struggling students. He understands our struggling students, and his changes are making improvements. Let me repeat that. He understands our struggling students, and his changes are making improvements across all grade levels. He is the only administrator that has come into my room on a regular basis to offer me help in my teaching techniques to reach all of my students. He is the only administrator that has given me resources upon resources to use not only for content, but classroom management. He is even willing to come into my classroom and teach for an hour to model different teaching styles to benefit everyone. Out of all of the principals that I've worked with over the past 7 years while here at Mount Clemens, Mr. Gibson has been the most positive, supportive, and influential one. Mr. Gibson is with us, the teachers and students in the trenches. He is also a positive role model to all of the students. He is seen in the hallways and is supporting the students as they are going to class. He has introduced our students to new concepts like our yearly debates, middle school daily pop-up challenge, and yearly student versus teachers math challenge. He has meetings with students to hear their concerns and comments to better our school. He has turned around the student culture so that the students feel proud to be attending Mount Clemens. Let me repeat that too. He himself has turned around the student culture so that the students feel proud to be attending Mount Clemens. I implore the board to look at the amount of staff that is here to give their support to Mr. Gibson, because we know what an amazing job he does. We know the daily battles he is faced with and how he has managed to turn around a school culture in just a few years. If the board votes to remove Mr. Gibson, they will be letting go of not just a great principal, but a great asset to the school. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Aletha Simmons. I reside at 155 Cass Avenue in the main office. I have been an educator in this district for 20 years, and although I have always had a great working relationship with all of the previous principals, working with Joe has been the most rewarding. Because of where we are as a district, our students, enrollment, the deficit, all of the factors that are impacting us as a district, we have had to work really hard to change the climate in this building. Joe jumped in with enthusiasm and confidence, determined to affect positive change, and he has. Joe came into a really tough environment, working with educators who were traumatized by their experiences with previous administration. Staff morale was non-existent. No one trusted him to support us as educators, nor to create positive change in the building. When he started, he told us that this was going to be good, that we would have to trust each other and become a team again, and that it would take time, but he was looking for progress, not perfection. With decreased budgets, Joe was able to create numerous programs, as you have heard other people talk about, and experiences for our students. Each year we have been able to create new and engaging classes for our students to take. Even more notable was that these were classes that students said that they would like to take. Students felt comfortable talking with him about what they would like to see in their school. It allowed them to take ownership and show pride. My colleagues worked with Joe to create curriculum so that these classes could be offered. It has been amazing watching these young people step up to participate in activities they may have never tried if not given the opportunity to experience it in a safe environment. That makes a difference. Not only has he taken the time to develop relationships with both the staff and students, he has also served as a role model for our students. How wonderful it is for our students to be able to see a positive African-American role model in a position of authority. He mentors these students, often taking them under his wing, often doing workshops with them, working to change their mindset in order to change their lives. Change their mindset in order to change their lives. There are many more positive things that I could say about Joe, but I believe that you probably are getting the picture based on all the comments that you are hearing. His leaving at this point would not only be devastating for us all, but also detrimental. We are at a critical point. Is there room for improvement? As lifelong learners, I believe that we all would have to say yes, that we all can improve in some way. But what he has done in a relatively short amount of time and with limited resources is impressive. Clearly, all of the good that he has accomplished has to be noted. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Stevens, and I reside at 155 Cass Avenue. I have been employed with the Mount Clemens Community School District my entire teaching career, even my student teaching, 13 years now. And during that time, I have been under the direction of 5 different principals. I would like to take a moment to explain to you how Joe Gibson is different from the other principals that I have had, and how it is him that we owe thanks to for the positive changes around the secondary complex. Joe promotes educational relationships over fear. It took a while for some staff to adjust to this when he first got here, as most of us were taught to be fearful when admin was observing us or near us. If he or she didn't care for us, sometimes it felt like there was going to be added stress for possible unspoken aversions. That stress then radiated from the staff members into the classrooms. Teachers, we were trying to get the students to fear us instead of respect. Fear a referral, fear a phone call home, fear extra work, forcing students into education through fear. And Joe came and was not going to have that. Things are not like that with Mr. Gibson. He is transparent and true and encourages staff to be the same way. He promotes his staff members' strengths and calls out our weaknesses so that he may help us to improve on them. As a staff, we do not fear him. We have come to highly respect him because he leads by an example and he is very solution-oriented. Mr. Gibson, unlike others, has taken the time to come into each one of our classrooms and get to know us as educators. His advice is trusted. Joe is always offering assistance to us individually so that we may become better teachers, promote learning through principal and teacher connections. Joe consistently offers professional development opportunities where we can learn to build better relationships with our students. Professional development opportunities that allow us to get to know our students better and their needs better. One example of that would be the incentive trips. The students have to earn points to attend these incentive trips, but the staff, we're allowed to chaperone. What do we have to do to attend? We don't have to earn points. And this is because Mr. Gibson knows that our attendance at these incentive trips is a way for students to bond with their teachers outside of the classroom. Years later, I still have students bringing up the zoo trip that I attended with them, the jokes, the conversations of that day. There have been times that I disagreed with the policies or actions of Mr. Gibson, but because he does what he does from an impartial and objective place, I know he is doing those things because he truly believes it will help the school district. Of all the principals I have been employed under, I have never felt more supported in my classroom, never been more respected as a human being, and never more appreciated as a dedicated member of this Mount Clemens Public Schools team. And I will tell you that my colleagues feel the same.
Thank you for your comments. Floor is still open for citizens' comments.
My name is Don Williams. I live at 18400 Waltham, and I am a current junior at Mount Clemens High School. A man named Reed Markham once said, "Successful leaders see the opportunity in every difficulty rather than the difficulty in every opportunity." This means being capable to see the beautiful image in the end before even laying down a piece of a puzzle, rather than ponder upon how long and hard the puzzle would be to assemble. When I first got to Mount Clemens, this school was a puzzle, one that had been attempted many times but eventually given up on. I never intended on staying here, only because in the beginning I was too blind to see the image at the end. Because of Mr. Gibson, I found a reason to stay, and more importantly, I found a purpose. Not just a purpose to be here, but a purpose to succeed, a purpose to aim higher, and a purpose to keep pushing. I contemplated giving up on multiple occasions, but the leadership of Mr. Gibson gave me hope. So how can we even consider giving up on him and losing hope, and losing the hope that we have in him? See, there's a difference between a leader and a boss. A boss tells you what direction to go in, while a leader shows you which direction to follow. We all face challenges, but Mr. Gibson shows us that we are not alone. He's done so much for our school. He has turned our school into one with a definite direction, and he has made communication a lot easier for us. Mr. Gibson gives us a voice, and that voice is one of the main reasons I'm here right now. The voice Mr. Gibson has given me has helped me become the student I currently am. The way I came in as a freshman compared to now are like night and day. As a freshman, I had no guidance. I didn't even really have my father, and nobody expressed to me how important it was for me to overcome obstacles until I met Mr. Gibson. He and Coach T even created a peer mentoring group, which allows many other upperclassmen and not to help guide incoming freshmen and sophomore, a group which Mr. Gibson leads. He visits classrooms regularly and ensures that our students are being taught well, and since he has been here, things have changed for the better. Not only is Mr. Gibson our principal, but he is someone we all look up to, because we know he'll be there for us. We know that he cares and that he really wants to see us succeed. How can we actually give up on him when he has never given up on any of us? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Ricardia Lewis. I reside at 155 Cass Avenue, room 208. So I don't even have anything much on this paper because what I have to say is very, very personal. This is my 16th year teaching. Mount Clemens, I've been here 4 years. This is the longest district I've ever been in by choice, because whenever something is not happening in my building with my administrator where I feel disrespected as a professional and as a human, I know that I have the opportunity to go anywhere else because I'm a math teacher. I'm a critical need area. And so it's easy for me to just get up and go. Throughout the 4 years that I've been here, I get multiple calls during the year like, how are they treating you over there at Mount Clemens? And my first response is, I'm not going anywhere. My administrator is amazing. You don't find that in probably the majority of schools, and I would know because I've probably been at least 10 in 16 years. I've never had a principal that is not a math person, but will come and teach my math class, even if he has to go and learn it himself first. I've never had a principal that when I stand outside of my door greeting my kids with flashcards because we need to learn multiplication tables and you can't come in until you get it, he'll walk past and he's answering it for them saying, you owe me one, you got two multiplication problems to give me later because I got you in class. He comes and sits in our classrooms and not sits to be just an observer. He actually participates. He helped my kids create their math games. Anything that they want. My pre-cal students did the Black History debate. I don't know much about debating. And so he came to help because I requested it. Most administrators don't take the time to do that because the first thing you will hear is they don't have time. It is said that attitude reflects leadership. I believe that you can see from the attitude of all of the people that are here to support him, the leadership that he shows us. I consciously come to work every day with the thought progress, not perfection, because that's something that he has told us so many times, because when you're aiming to be perfect, as soon as you miss a little bit, you're disappointed. But when you're aiming for progress every single day, you know that what you're doing is working because we got just a little bit more. Our test scores are always used against us because our students aren't growing as much as they should. And it says that they're not growing at all. But if you actually look at our test scores, they are growing. It may not be as much as they should, but they definitely are. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Floor is still open for citizens' comments.
Good evening. My name is Soleil McFadden, and I reside at 137 Clare Street. As a student who's been here since my freshman year, I've witnessed firsthand the effect Mr. Gibson's presence has had on not only my school, but as well as myself and my surrounding peers. He's encouraged those around me to become more inclined to learn and has pushed them to become more involved than ever. He's gone above and beyond for his students and pushes us to be better versions of ourselves. Sorry, I'm nervous. Which is something that I wish for future students to experience as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Floor is still open for citizens' comments.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Monk, and I reside at my second home, 155 Cass Avenue. I'm here tonight to speak about Mr. Gibson. As a social worker in this district, I'm often involved in very difficult situations. In working with Mr. Gibson as a part of the team, he has always shown leadership, problem solving, and compassion towards our students, which I really appreciate. In thinking about one of many situations that occur during my day, we were in a meeting, and the meeting was quickly going to the left. But Mr. Gibson was able to roll it back and bring it on the right step. And I remember talking to my coworker the next day during a debriefing, and I said I was so glad that Mr. Gibson was at that meeting because he was able to put the focus back on what that student needed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Samantha Velfling. I live at 23245 Patterson Street. I have been going to Mount Clemens since 6th grade. I have had two other principals other than Mr. Gibson. I have never been happier until Mr. Gibson came. From 6th grade to 7th, I never felt comfortable here. I was never happy. I always felt safer outside. And then I came here, and Mr. Gibson came. He made me feel happier and safer. He gave us programs that no other principal ever gave us. He gave us African American history, which has already been mentioned. We had a T3 program, which is Teens Talk Truth. Before he came, it wasn't safe. Nobody felt comfortable speaking. And then he created rules, and he created organization. And he made the teens be able to talk in a room full of strangers and adults. He got the community involved when nobody outside of the school knew what was happening with us. Sometimes even our own parents don't understand, and we don't feel comfortable talking about it. But Mr. Gibson brings in adults who can help, who make students feel comfortable, who will listen. Mr. Gibson has an open door policy. I have never had another principal who has an open door policy who will let students come in and talk to them. Mr. Gibson is someone that this school has needed for a while. Past principals have brought our reputation down. They have made this school feel unsafe and have made people who come into the school feel unsafe just walking into the hallways. Mr. Gibson has made tremendous decisions with I'm sorry, I'm nervous. With bringing in more security, with bringing in better security, with giving us programs that let us open up to what we want to do in life. We didn't have enough extracurriculars when I came here. When I came here in 6th grade, we had keyboarding, art, and physical education. That's it. We didn't have African American history. We didn't have comic book and graphic novel writing. That's preparing me for my future. It's not just some extracurricular I take for a credit. It's something that I want to do, and it's giving me a chance to discover it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Aaron Davis. I stay on 182 Washington Street. I first arrived at Mount Clemens High School in 2014 before Mr. Gibson was here. 2014 was a hard year. We didn't really have anything to do other than if you didn't play basketball, you went home after school. Mr. Gibson brought on a lot of groups due to his communication ability. Like everything he brought to the school, he always asked the students, what do you think is a great idea? Mr. Gibson's communication with the student body is second to none. He always stops and asks students, how are you doing? What's up? Like, he's not one of those, you don't view him as, oh, I can't tell him nothing, or I'm gonna get ratted on. Mr. Gibson brought pride to the school. It made us want to respect the school. We were proud to say we go to Mount Clemens High School. And as a graduate of Mount Clemens High School, to this day, I'm still proud. And I feel one of the biggest benefits I took is seeing another African American in a major leadership role transferring over to college. You don't see that. And you don't see many others your color. But to see him and the success he brought to the school, it brings a smile to my face, and it gives me a role model to look up to. Mr. Gibson changed the whole culture of the school. I was here in 2014, and I was here when he arrived. When he arrived, it was an essence that was brought on the school. We weren't just going to school, going home. We were excited to go to school. He always put a smile on your face. He would come in class, but he wouldn't sit down and sit in the back of the class. He would go sit next to the students. He would raise his hands to answer problems. He made you feel safe, and he was one of those people you could always go to tell him anything you need to know. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Floor is still open for citizens' comments.
Somebody else, can they go up again?
No.
Joe Gibson,
51604 Hill Lane, Chesterfield, Michigan. I had wrote some stuff down, but I can't read it, but you can. It's in your hands. I did not expect to be here. On Monday, I was told by my superintendent that I either resign or she would not renew or recommend not renewing my contract. That's a very hard position to be in, because a contract non-renewal on your record makes it difficult to find employment in the future. I could have very easily said, okay, I'll take the resignation, but I want to be here. Everything I've done has shown that I want to be here. Now, whether or not you like me personally, that's different. But I've worked really hard with an awesome team of people to do the best we can with what we got. And now someone wants to take that away. Why? Why? Why all of a sudden? Because the scores are low? I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it at all. Maybe I'm not the type of leader who would roll over on their staff members, on his teachers, and blame them for the low test scores to save my own butt. And maybe that's a bad thing, but that's who I am. Maybe I'm not the type of leader who would stand there and be compliant when stuff is said wrong and I don't agree with it and I have data and information to support my position and in the position of these people. Maybe I'm wrong for not being the type of person who will bow down when bullied and argued against, even by my boss. Maybe I'm wrong for that. But you hired me to come here to make change. Change is hard to do. It takes tough decisions sometimes. It takes courage. Pretty much everything I've asked these people to do in this building has been research-based and growing, progressively impacting. That sounds weird now that I say it out loud. Maybe I should have read. I love you people. I love these people. They know that.
Thank you for your comments. Last call, citizens' comments.
Ray Muscavalli Jr. I reside at 180 Dickinson Street, Mount Clemens. I'm the JV basketball coach, if you don't know. I haven't really gotten to know Mr. Gibson personally to any depth. However, I think this room kind of reflects his leadership. Bare minimum, the definition of a leader is the level of influence that you can exude. I mean, he didn't personally ask everybody to come in here, but people obviously feel obligated to be here and to show support. The only thing I have to say is, if you can't tell, there's a bit of momentum here within the kids, within the teachers I see here, and within the leaders that you see represented here. And it's really a powerful moment. Not really sure the reasoning behind the decision, why it's even being proposed, or what the criteria is for judgment of whether or not to move forward with this decision. But I do think it would be a mistake given the people that are in this room. And I think the people that are entitled with making that decision should take all of that into account, not only the things that may be directly in front of you, but the things that have been expressed by all the people in this room. So a leader, first and foremost, like I said, is influence or the followers that are behind them and the leaders that they are developing. So from my little foxhole, excuse the military reference, I work for the military, but from my little foxhole, I can speak to the students that come behind Mr. Gibson. In my 2 years being here, we have 5 students that are in the top 10 in their class. The participation from last year to this year has gone up, and the culture, and somebody spoke to culture. Culture has never been better from what I understand of talking to Coach T, talking to Ms. Hannah, and then talking to the students that I had the pleasure of coaching. So I would ask that at this point in time, not to derail that, not to stop the progress. Understand numbers be what they may. Sometimes the numbers don't tell the true story or the complete story. And I understand that everybody's not in you guys' position, but I would ask that you take a step back from everything that's going on and really take into account the people in this room, not only the words that are coming out of their mouth, but just look around at their faces. I think it says enough. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Carl Hay. I reside at 540 Clint River Drive, Mount Clemens, Michigan. I just moved here in November with my family from Nashville. So I'm going to speak from the perspective of a parent, because you've heard from teachers, you heard from students. My son is a sophomore that goes to this school. When we came here, my son was being homeschooled, and I wasn't looking to put him in a school. I was looking for a place for him to play basketball and for him to still be homeschooled, because I take my son's education very seriously. I am the grandson of a woman who taught for 50 years, whose sisters were teachers. One of my aunts is a teacher. I have 3 uncles that are professors. Needless to say, I come from a long history of teaching in my family. One of the things that was actually said when this school was brought up was that they had a new principal and he was doing big things. I happen to agree with, at least from the stories that I have heard of the past and from what I've seen with my own eyes, he must be making changes, because the stories of the past don't match what I see. Now, I think that you all have a very important decision in front of you. The one thing I find interesting is that we're talking about the future of these kids, which my son is one of them. And I would have really loved to see y'all, I saw one of you taking notes, but I would really love to see y'all taking notes so that later on, because I'm going to assume there's a discussion going to happen on this, and things will need to be referenced. And I'm glad he passed out some stuff, but I hope you guys really take this as a serious situation, because as a parent, you're talking about our children, and I like the leadership I've seen so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
My name's Steve Olson. I'm Angel Delich's father. Recently, there's been some problems here at the school.
Your address, please, sir?
119 Smith Street.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I had to speak with Mr. Gibson. I didn't meet him before, but recently here within the last month and a half. And developed quite a trust and a bond with him. And I feel that he's maintained the safety of the school in a very, very solid manner. And I think it'd be a mistake to not renew his contract. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Gracie Spooner. I stay at 110 Grant Avenue. I'm a student at Mount Clemens, a junior. I have Intro to African American History with Mr. Bates, and that's something that Mr. Gibson made, and I just want to say I love the class. Also, students don't come to school board meetings like this. We all obviously care about Mr. Gibson a lot, and yeah, I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Barnes. I reside at 291 Jones Street in Mount Clemens. The reason why I'm here tonight is because for the last 24 hours, my phone has been going crazy with text messages, direct messages, Snapchat messages from all of the wonderful students that I get the pleasure to hang out with on Friday nights at our open gym, and all of them with a resounding voice have asked me to come up here and speak on behalf of Mr. Gibson, who I didn't know until probably a month ago. What I do know, and I will only speak to fact, what I do know is there is a large gurgling underneath the surface of this school right now. There is a sense of pride in your students that I have not seen in a very long time. I have been in Mount Clemens for 40 years. I attended Mount Clemens Community Schools. There have been some very rough patches in the school district in the last 10 years. But I have, since October, been with a large majority of your students from your elementary school to your middle school to your high school. Our Friday night open gym brings in almost 130 kids a week. Most of those students are from your district. Those students have a certain love. When Coach T was no longer at the high school but got transferred to Seminole, I heard about it. They all wanted to talk about it. They talked about how they wanted him back here. And in the last 24 hours, I have received multiple texts about this subject. Mr. Gibson and I met at the Conflict Resolution Day a few weeks ago. Then again, I had the pleasure of seeing him here when I came for the Real Talk Day. His influence and how he talks to people, how he engages the community is absolutely amazing. It is making me take a certain pride in this district again as well. So to not renew his contract or to forcibly put out somebody who actually is telling the board that they want to be here would be a mistake. It would be an insurmountable mistake for you to take somebody away from here who the kids have attached their hearts to and who has stood before you and said they have an extreme desire to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Last call, citizens' comments. Hearing or seeing none. Moving the agenda. Next on the agenda, a consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, the approval of the minutes for the February 20, 2019 regular meeting, the March 14th, 2019 special meeting, and the March 14th, 2019 board workshop. Chair would entertain a motion relative to the agenda item.
I move to approve the minutes.
Moved by Ms. Jarrett. Is there a second?
Support.
Second by Ms. Escalante. Any questions, comments, discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing or seeing none, call the roll, please.
Ms. Jarrett.
Aye.
Ms. Escalante.
Yes.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes, motion carries. Next on the agenda, agenda item 6, approval of the bills for payment. This is an action being forwarded by the Business Committee. Mrs. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we discussed the bills for payment at our monthly finance meeting, and everything was found to be in order, and I'd ask at this time that we get a motion from the board to approve the minutes as, approve the bills as presented.
Chair would entertain a motion relative to agenda item 6A, approval of the bills for payment.
I would move.
Moved by Mr. Brewley,
Support.
second by Ms. Escalante. Any questions, discussions, motion on the floor? Hearing and seeing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Mrs. Escalante? Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes, motion carries. Action item 7, Policy Committee, Policy item 7A, policies for second reading. Would you like to take that over, Mr. Monk?
Okay, thanks, sir.
Just get a little bit of background on, and I felt just for the general public so they know exactly what we're doing. The proposed new revised and replacement policy administrative guidelines and forms included in this update has been thoroughly prepared and reviewed by Neola's legal counsel for statutory compliance. If a policy or guideline is marked as revision, the changes has been marked in bold to add material and cross out to delete material. As you review and revise policy or guideline, you may choose to accept one, many, or all of the changes provided. If a policy or guideline marked as replacement, that means there have been enough changes made that justify a complete, clean replacement copy. With that being said, we are submitting policy 0100 definition bylaws. Background history, several definitions have been added and or modified to provide greater clarity of meaning. And also just to kind of go more in detail, we had discussed this at the last two board meetings, but we pulled it off of the last agenda to give better clarification. And we got that clarification for remote participation of a board member. The policy says that a board member can participate remotely, meaning over the phone, with the permission of the board president. So, and there was some discussion about, well, what if we have 3 board members here and one on the phone? Does that constitute a quorum? No. Checking with my resources, looking up, doing my background, we found out that you need to have, and it states in our bylaws, you need to have 4 board members present, not 3 present and 1 on the phone. They have to be present in order. So we are recommending that change for that definition, and that would be at the discretion of the board president to allow that board member to participate and their vote be recorded remotely at a meeting. And I will entertain any other questions that any of my fellow board members may have.
Any questions of the chair regarding the revised definitions, policy 0100? This is the second reading.
So, Mr. Monk, on that policy, it states that through communication, they can participate in the board meeting and they vote will allow.
Yes, it will be allowed and put into the minutes.
Right. Any additional questions, comments?
Was that a state mandated update, or that just a recommendation?
Yeah, it's a state updated recommended. Neola and MASB has gotten a lot of questions on that because there are a lot of, we have over 800 districts in the state. So that question, what happens is that when that question comes up, they do a research and they do a kind of data gathering as far as, the majority of the boards in the state. So that a lot of the boards have that question. Well, sometimes we have a board member who's on vacation, they want to call in because they still want to participate. So that has come up. So they actually did, and they had the legal look at it and everything. So they decided that if a board chooses to adopt that policy, that particular board member can participate remotely.
Has that been common practice?
Yes, but I know our bylaw says that you cannot vote. So that's the difference between ours, and each district is different. Some district does, some district doesn't. Ours particularly says you cannot vote, but if we adopt this policy, it changes ours to where is that you can vote remotely with the permission of the president.
And I know this came to second reading, but with your policy committee, what was the consensus? They said, yeah, it sounds like a good idea to go with.
Yes, that's why we bring the recommendation. That's why we pulled it off, because we want to get better clarification.
Right.
That's why we pulled it from the last meeting, just to get better clarification and understanding.
And also to incorporate technology, that this wasn't an issue years before, but everyone's using a lot of technology. So they also wanted to make sure that we recognize the fact that times have changed, and if the board so wanted to allow members to vote remotely, they could, as long as there was a present quorum.
Right, right. And that was a question, because we didn't want to be sitting here, you got 7 speakerphones here, and you're having a board meeting remotely, and ain't nobody present. So you got to have 4 people here, even for it to, yeah.
Nate, I read this policy already, but what if the board member votes but don't complete the whole meeting?
That's fine. That's up to the discretion of the board president.
The quorum would not be the 4th person on the phone somewhere. The law, the policy reads you have to have physically a quorum.
Right.
And if you have somebody joining on the phone remotely, if they left, you still have a quorum. But the quorum cannot be consisted of 3 physical bodies in place and 2 or 3 other people on the phone. That's not a quorum. You have to have 4 people physically in the meeting place to establish the quorum.
And the reason I ask this question is because if there's a quorum of 4 people and 1 person on the phone and they vote, at the end of the meeting, someone moves to rescind their vote for that last topic, and it goes back for another vote, and it doesn't go through, the last person to have no say in it.
What?
What's the?
What?
I'm trying to understand.
Okay, say that one again.
If someone that voted yes said, I want to rescind my vote, I want to remove this, go back and revisit this topic and rescind my vote.
Well, as long as there's a quorum, that's the key.
So number 5 that's off the phone, he's not there anymore, he's out or she.
Right.
The quorum has to be physically there at the meeting place.
Got to have that quorum.
The quorum cannot consist of 3 people in the meeting place and 2 people on the call.
Right.
You have to have physically 4 people, and if
And I
you
think I
lose a
understand what you're
quorum,
saying is that if that person on the phone
is gone,
you still have your quorum, though.
you still got your quorum.
But if somebody leaves from the meeting physically, then you lose your quorum,
Right.
and you
Then the
can't
meeting's
conduct
over.
any more business.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you still got your 4 people as a quorum, so that means that you can make an amendment.
And go back to
And
that
go
topic.
back to-
Okay. Dangerous grounds, but okay, I understand.
Yeah, the current new language reads, a vote at a meeting of the Board of Education, board members must be physically present to have their vote officially recorded in the board minutes unless the board member has notified the board president prior to the meeting that he or she must participate remotely, and the board president approves remote participation by the board members. The old language said a vote at the meeting of the Board of Education. The law requires that board members must be physically present in order to have their vote officially recorded in the board minutes.
Right. Yep.
Any other questions, discussion on the policy? Chair would entertain a motion relative to the second reading of policy 0100.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Monk.
Support.
Second by Ms. Escalante. Again, are there additional questions, comments, or concerns regarding the motion on the floor? Hearing or seeing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Mrs. Escalante?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Brewley? Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes, motion carries. Item 8, personnel report. A1, employee non-renewal recommendation. Mrs. Davis.
Thank you. Before you have a memo that I submitted to you to consider the non-renewal of the secondary complex building principal, and you have all of the information before you, and I would ask that you consider the non-renewal of that contract for next year.
Are there questions of the superintendent?
I actually had a couple of questions.
Sure.
Listening to the comments from the floor earlier, and some of the information that we received from Ms. Davis. Conflict resolution, I mean, some of this doesn't kind of, I mean, hey, I'm a new board member, and I don't know what the process is about conflict resolution. It seems like there's some conflicts that I'm not aware of. And as a, you know, resolving the issues, is there an opportunity to resolve the issues to, you know, I'm just trying to say, is there a way that we can come to some type of middle ground at all?
What, I'm not sure what you mean.
I see how the students and the staff and how this principal is extremely popular. I don't want to lose the momentum that we already have in the school and the positive, you know, things seem to be changing. Believe me, I'm a bather. I went to school here years ago, and we had a lot of school pride in our sports and everything that we did. We had a lot of clubs and stuff. I see some of it's coming back. I mean, hey, we got the robotics stuff going too, and you know, there all the other things that are positive going on in the school. How can, you know, these recommendations and everything, they're recommendations, which is great, but is there a way to resolve some of the issues that are happening due to these things? I mean, number one, the principal needs to come to the table. The superintendent needs to come to the, is there a way that it can be resolved in a positive way to mitigate removal?
The way it works, I submitted a letter of my recommendation to the employee. And in there it outlines what there's to do. So I've done my piece. Now, if they want to do something differently, they would have to follow the guidelines that were laid out in that. So no, I don't go back and ask them. I've expressed, and then you have that information. So they're to go through, and if they wanted to, I gave them opportunity to talk before this, and I did not get anything. And so now that this process is in place, now they have another opportunity, if they so choose to follow the guidelines that were laid out in the information that was submitted.
Just to piggyback on Mrs. Jarrett's comment, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but I'm trying to, what I'm hearing you saying is there a manner or a mechanism that can be employed to potentially do away with the recommendation for non-renewal? Are there some things in the documents that have been presented to the board that can be worked out, reconsidered, and to try to come to some kind of middle ground? Is that if
correct?
I'm hearing correct?
Again, as is laid out in the information that the employee received, they would follow those guidelines, and then I'll let you guys know, and then it's the board. It is not me that makes the final, this is the board. So it is after, if everything is followed, I come to you and tell them that this is what they would like to do, and then that discussion is between you and the employee. So not.
Just to help clarify the process, does the employee have the opportunity to ask for a private meeting to discuss the matter with the board?
Yes, as is laid out in the...
All right, so the employee has the opportunity to have a private meeting to discuss this matter with the board rather than in a public setting. Did we receive any information from the employee to have such a meeting?
No.
So therefore, if we didn't receive any information from the employee to have a private meeting to go over the questions involved, the only other forum that is left to us is the public meeting this evening.
Yes. And then
So we have two options. It is the employee who makes the decision whether or not they wish to have the private meeting or whether or not it is brought about in a public sphere. That's not our decision as a board or as a school district, but rather the decision of the employee.
Correct.
Sure or not?
That is correct.
Help me out. If the board agrees with the recommendation to not renew the contract, the employee has 30 days or within a 30-day time period to request a meeting with the board to, because if the board approves the recommendation to non-renew, you still have to bring it to the board to vote on the actual non-renewal of the contract, if I'm correct.
I want to make sure you get the language correct.
Okay, yeah.
Tonight is not a recommendation to non-renew. Tonight is a recommendation for you to consider. So it's a big difference between, that has to, if you choose not to renew, that comes at a later date. You have to give the employee 30 days. So if you decide to consider another process, I would have to deliver another letter to the employee stating that you decided to consider it. At that point, then they would ask to see you. And you must, and then they have 30 days for you to meet with them. But their time would be I think the 8th of April to make a decision, if they want to talk with you.
So, go ahead.
I got a
Jason.
question, and I'm looking I'm looking at this from a policy aspect. This is what I look at. Policy number 1420. Policy number 1439, and policy number 1443. Have we followed all guidelines in these three policies pertaining to this employee?
I have followed all of the guidelines, and I have been in constant contact with our legal. And if you would, some of the information that's contained in your packet, it's one thing that's standing out that we talked about, that I've let you guys know. And that is, that information is what we're using. And again, this is for you to consider. It is totally
I get it.
up to you.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
I completed the piece that I needed to, per request, followed through. So now, again, this is brought before the board to consider. So if you decide you don't want to consider, that's what you decide to do.
So, Mr. Monk, in that policy, does it state what Mr. Rickman just said? The employee has 30 days to rebut?
It's a lengthy policy. The policy I'm talking about, 1420, school administrator evaluation. The other policy is 1439, administrator discipline, and 1443, non-renewal of administrative contracts.
And
all three of these kind of go hand in hand. because it starts with the evaluation. And now it states in here that, for the record, it states in the evaluation system shall ensure that administrators rated a minimally effective or ineffective. The persons conducting the evaluation shall develop and require the school administrator to implement an improvement plan to correct the deficiencies. The improvement plan shall recommend professional development opportunities and/or measures designed to improve the rating of the administrator on his or her next annual year-end evaluation, and administrator rated as ineffective on 3 consecutive year-end evaluations must be dismissed from employment with the district. So my question is, did that employee receive 3 consecutive ineffective evaluations?
No, it's because this recommendation is not based on that. Again, if you look at the information that I submitted to you, it was an egregious act. And it does warrant immediate, but we decided not to go there. So it's an egregious act in there that was pointed out. And the 30 days is, that is pursuant to section 1229 of the revised school code. That's where the 30 days come in.
Okay. Help me out, Mr. Rickman. You got this revised school code, but you also have our policies and procedures. Do revised school code trump our policies and procedures?
Absolutely.
The revised state codes are state laws. And
Okay.
so local policy can't supersede state policy. And if you're talking about the 3 years,
yeah,
and based on what I saw in the letter, that was not the overwhelming offense that was the recommendation was being brought regarding.
Okay.
That was one of the factors, but that was not the overwhelming factor, that based on what I read.
Mr. Money, you see that 30-day rebuttal in there? I see you scanning through that policy. Is that 30-day rebuttal in there?
The 30 days?
Yes.
No, that's on, if you go to page 40 of your packet, it says what I think that's in there. No, wait a minute. That's not the right one. I'll tell you that. Let me get the 30 days.
What? No,
Let
it
me
is.
get the right one.
Up on the policy
Wait a minute.
1443, it says, A, notify the administrator in writing at least 30 days prior to the date the board will take action on non-renewal of its intent to non-renewal, the reasons for non-renewal, and the right to meet with the board in open or closed session to discuss the reasons prior to non-renewal.
All right.
That falls into place if the recommendation to consider non-renewal is approved. At that point, that's when that 30-day, in terms of the right of the employee to have a meeting with the board. At that point in time, that's when that goes into play.
And you said employee has not requested a meeting as of yet?
That's not-
Privately or
that's-
publicly?
That's premature.
That's
That would happen if this board agrees with the recommendation to consider non-renewal. At that point is when the employee has the right to petition the board to have a meeting.
Read that again, Mr. Monk.
Which one? What I just read?
What you just read.
Notify the administrator, well, let me read the whole thing. If the Board of Education determines not to renew the contract of an administrator, it shall notify the administrator in writing at least 30 days prior to the date the board will take action on non-renewal of its intent to non-renew. The reasons for non-renewal and the right to meet with the board in open or closed session to discuss the reasons prior to non-renewal.
And that was a letter that was delivered on Monday through email, and then it was hand-delivered today, I believe it was. But yeah, so the 30 days, at least the notification went out on Monday.
This is considered non-renew, and we have to vote to non-renew at this point.
That's what I thought.
Ms. Jarrett, you
I
have a
get it.
question?
No, I get it. I understand.
I heard, you know, so I thought I heard you, so I was
I'm shaking my head, it's making noise.
So, Mr. Monk, basically, this is the vote for the consideration of the non-renewal, 30 days to rebuttal. Then it comes in front of the board again, and then that's when we vote on the non-renewal.
Right.
To or not to.
To or not
Right,
to,
exactly.
at the next board meeting.
Within 30 days. So
So it
it'll
has-
be within 30 days of today,
Right.
if I'm interpreting this
And that would be,
correct.
and the way it's laid out, that would be April the 22nd would be the soonest that the board could do anything, and the employee has until April the 8th to make the request.
So any decision made here tonight does not non-renew the lease. I mean, correction, the contract. I'm thinking work. It's just to consider. If the board acquiesce, then there's nothing else to move forward. If the board approves the recommendation to consider non-renewal, then the employee has the opportunity to meet with the board at their, whether or not in public or in private, at their decision. As Mr. Bruley pointed out, we don't control that. They control that. And then at that meeting is when the board either votes to non-renew or vote to move forward with additional contract. That doesn't happen today. This is not what the board is on the agenda for the board to consider today, is non-renewal of the contract. Is to consider non-renewing, not to non-renew it. That happens later if this motion passes tonight, to consider non-renewal. I know it sounds crazy, but
No, I understand. I'm kind of in the same boat with Ms. Jarrett, though. You know, I've been in this district for, shoot, I'm gonna tell my age here in a minute. I remember when Mr. Bates used to go hiking all the time, and I wanted to go. But you cannot ignore what just transpired here tonight. Everybody got their own conscience, everybody got their own vote, but you cannot ignore that. Especially, you cannot ignore the love of the kids that has been shown here. Some things are not always black and white. Sometimes they're gray area. And I'm with Ms. Jarrett. I don't know. Is there anything that can be worked out? Because I've been here, and I've said this before, I'm the only member on this board who come out of the ranks of the school. I taught here, coached here, worked here, the whole 9 yards. So a lot of the things that the past boards have done, decisions, affecting not only me, it's affecting my kids, my wife, my household. So I have a different perspective. I just want to make sure that, and this, I've always been this way, that you exhaust every avenue before you pull the lever. So that's my comment.
Ms. Escalante.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding this clearly. So if we as a board moved forward this evening to consider non-renewal, that would open up an opportunity for there to be a meeting between the employee and all of us so that we could also hear the other side of it?
Correct.
Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, all right. And that would really be the only way that that could happen, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any additional questions of the superintendent, comments, concerns?
So you hit it around the head. There's only way you can speak about it if you vote for reconsideration.
Right.
Then there's three sides to the story. Her side, his side, and the right side. Okay, so we want to see what's right about it. Okay, we want to get in the middle of it, stir the pot up and find out what's happening. So only way that happens is the vote of this. If not, we can't hear anything from Principal Gibson.
Because it'll be a done deal.
Right, because it leaves our bounds. We on this side of the fence, we can't go on that side.
Right.
Okay?
Any further, any discussion, Madam Superintendent?
No, I don't.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the board? The recommendation is to consider non-renewal of the high school, middle school building principal. The chair would entertain a motion relative to agenda item 8, the personnel report, the employee non-renewal recommendation.
I move to consider the non-renewal recommendation.
Moved by Ms. Jarrett to support the non-renewal recommendation. Is there support? Support, Mr. Brewley. Any additional questions, comments, discussion on the motion on the floor to consider non-renewal?
I would like to make a comment.
Yes.
I just want to say that I'm very moved by everybody that's shown up tonight, and I think it's important that we consider the whole scenario. It's not because we don't support our superintendent. Obviously, we trust her to lead this district, and it's not an easy job. As you all know, working in the district, it's difficult at times. But this is the only way that we're going to have an opportunity to talk about it and get to the bottom of it. And I think that it's only fair that everybody has an opportunity to discuss it. And so I want, especially the students, you know, like I'm looking at all of you guys, I was a student here, looking at your faces, seeing the impact that Mr. Gibson has had on you. I think it's only fair and only right that we have an opportunity to speak with him concerning the situation. So by voting to support this move, I want you guys to understand that it's so that a conversation can take place. I just want to make that clear.
Mr. Brewley.
Yeah, I would also like to make a couple comments. Whenever you deal with a personnel situation, there is never the best outcome. You try to find what is the most just outcome. And I think that's what most of the people on the board will struggle with. What is the most just outcome? Everybody comes at these decisions from their point of view. And all of those points of view are valid. Any of our experiences with another individual is our experience with that individual. And because a person has a different experience, doesn't negate our experience. So that having a good personal experience with any person in the school system is a positive, and that's what we have. But that doesn't mean that another person can't, in that same situation, have a negative. I've been in classrooms where I loved the teacher I had. And the student sitting next to me thought the teacher was a name I will not say. We were in the same room, in the same classroom, heard the same speech. I felt one way, they felt another way. I think what we're trying to ascertain is figuring out what is overall in the best interest of the whole district. And because a person may or may not come up with a decision that you may or may not agree with, doesn't mean that A, they don't respect what you said, or they don't think that the person's attitude isn't good. And I don't know the result, and I don't want to prejudge the result. I want to sort of figure out the result. But that as we go through this, I think everybody's got to give everybody a little bit of slack. That says, I had a good result, so therefore I want to get up and say this, and that's good. But another person sitting in the chair next to you may have not had a good result and may not be here tonight because they don't want to get up and say something mean. But that doesn't mean that either person didn't have the experience they had. And I think in all of these things, we need to be considerate. We need to think hard. But those of us on the board have to be responsible to think what is in the best interest, short and long term, for the school. I don't know what that decision will be, but I think that's why I seconded the motion, to try and figure out what that is, rather than saying, oh, there's no problem. We want to try and figure short and long term, how can we help the school move forward? So that's my intent, at least. Seconded the motion.
Any additional questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Monk?
I also want to know and want to figure out the best way. I want to have the opportunity to hear both sides. It's only fair to both sides. But I'm like you, Doc. There's this side, there's the right side and the left side, but then there's the right side, whatever that right side is. But like I said, you cannot negate the fact that there's been an outpour of affection for this employee in this district that I wasn't aware of, that I seen for the first time tonight, from both students and teachers and parents. This blew me away. I ain't never seen this. So this is different for me. So I want to find out what's going on. and make the right decision. So that's why I'm gonna vote yes on this, because I want to have that meeting where all parties are at the table.
Any additional questions, comments, discussion on the motion on the floor?
Put my 2 cents into it. Usually don't, but I will. First thing, with the evidence before us, it is apparent we need a discussion. And only way we get that discussion if we vote yes on this movement. Sometimes we look at what situation falls in front of us, but we really don't know what's behind us until we, step out and see what we stepped over. So what we're going to do is move forward with this. Hopefully get it done and over with. Hopefully Mr. Gibson do what needs to be done and we get this on the calendar as soon as possible. Hopefully in the next week, 2 weeks, as soon as we can, and just go forward with this. We do know tonight is not a vote for non-renewal, it's a consideration. So next board meeting, or whenever that is in 30 days, that's going to be the ultimate vote of, is it going to be a renewal, is it going to be a non-renewal, whatever it may be. So I know where we need to go, I know what we need to do. So let's get in line and make it happen.
Once again, Doc, what's the time frame here? So we vote today. What's the time frame?
He had, Mr. Gibson would have until April the 8th to let his intentions be known, whether or not he would like to have an audience with the board.
Or even if he wants to meet.
He wants a discussion, okay.
And once we hear from that, we would have to send a communication to the board to figure out a special meeting date, unless
The 22nd would be the soonest.
we couldn't have it at the next regular.
No, because it's not 30
Because it's not
days.
30 days, so.
Right.
Be a special meeting.
It'd have to be
Yeah,
a
it has to be
special
a special
meeting. Yeah, after the regular meeting next month, because that would be the 30 days.
Okay. I know personally myself, I have personal days at work, so whatever works the quickest, let me know. I'll call it
It
work.
can't be before the next regularly scheduled board meeting. So at the next regularly scheduled board meeting, if we have the information, we can pull our calendars together to establish time, the best time for the board to meet for the special meeting.
It'll be the 22nd.
Quick question. The
22nd
30
is
days
the
that the
first.
employee has to advise us that he would like to have this happen, and then we schedule, or we have to wait till the next board meeting before we have it?
We can't do anything before 30 days. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Yes, right.
So 30 days, he advises us, then we schedule, or what? I'm confused.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right, that's all we get clarification.
We have a regularly scheduled board meeting the third Wednesday
It's the
of next
17th,
month,
so
which
it's
will be the
correct.
17th. But the 30-day window that he has will not be up on the 17th. It won't be until, we couldn't have a special meeting till after the 22nd to deal with that, that issue, if that's his
Right.
wishes.
Because the 20th is on a Saturday, so you could.
I'm not coming in on a Saturday.
So the first day is April the 22nd, which is a Monday.
You can Skype.
No.
Pass that policy tonight.
No. Thank you.
Yes. Now, Mr. Monk, I'm gonna tell my age. I've been on this board since old Yellow was a pup. And I know, to my colleagues, you haven't experienced this type of forum, this type of outpour from our students, our staff, our parents. It's part of doing business. I've sat through many of these, and they're not easy, they're not comfortable, but as Mr. Bruley articulated, our votes have to be to do what's in the best interest of the district, taking all personalities out of it and looking at the facts. So I'm glad to see the students, the teachers, and those who have assembled here this evening. But I'm not intimidated by the crowd, because I realize that I have a job to do sitting on this board. And I've sat through this before. I was aware that there could be potentially an outpouring of students, parents, et cetera here, because I received emails, texts, and phone calls saying that there are students there's even on social media to come to the board meeting tonight, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever methodology was used to get people here, I'm glad to see the people here, particularly the students, because this is real life world politics, government, democracy at work. And this is what we were elected to do. There are hard decisions as board members that we have to make. And this is one of them. And it's part of our elected responsibility as board members. Any additional questions, comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing or seeing none, call the roll, please.
Ms. Jarrett?
Aye.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Mrs. Escalante?
Yes.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes. Motion carries. Next, agenda item 9, out-of-state professional development.
Okay.
We're gonna pause for a minute while let the crowd.
Okay, that was interesting. That was interesting.
See right over here. Yeah. I'm not going. We got all these first reasons to go.
Well, they don't even know it. Now they know it.
It says page 69.
Yeah, 69.
Oh, no, I'm like, this is some question.
Right.
No, it's just the numbers. I hope they're getting your phone. You should just be able to say.
Anybody can.
We're taking the food. And any of the specific ones, yeah.
Go tell them boys we about food alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got food over there. We got food around. Ain't got nothing.
You want me to tell them?
Yeah, that's our food. Ain't got nothing.
I'm sorry, guys, the food and the refreshments are not for the members of the audience. That was set up for board members.
It's all right.
Yeah,
Well,
It's okay.
they asked. So.
All right. Okay, action item 9, out-of-state professional development.
Okay.
Ms. Davis.
Hi, yes, a colleague, board member would like to travel to Philadelphia to.
Actually, I didn't even recognize that on the agenda. I'd say pull it. I already looked at the cost. It's too much.
Yeah, it is a lot.
We can scratch that item off and move on.
Can I have a motion to pull item 9 from the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Monk.
Support.
Support Ms. Escalante. Questions, discussion on the motion on the floor to pull item 9.
Just don't want to cost the district that kind of money. I'll do mostly, I want to start on my 200 level, get my next accreditation, so I'll just do state local seminars.
Any additional questions, comments on the motion on the floor? Pull item 9. Hearing and seeing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Mrs. Escalante?
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yeah.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes, motion carries. Item 10, informational item, Business Committee. Are there any additional information from the Business Committee?
I'll just let you guys know that we did meet, Janine's not here to give our little spiel. So we met on Tuesday, the 12th at 9:30. It was myself and Miss Walker and Miss Davis. And we went through all of the bills for payment, all of the purchase order listings, everything that we do regularly at our meetings, and everything was in order and good to go.
Are there any questions regarding the information from the business committee? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 10A, open purchase order listings. Are there any questions on the open purchase order listings? Seeing none. Item B, financial reports. I'm pretty sure this went through the business committee and the finance committee.
Yep.
Are there any questions, additional input regarding the financial reports?
Just that we're making sure we keep our expenditures under control, and we are abiding by our budget that the board had approved. So we're making sure we're running a tight ship.
And you may not have this information, and if you don't,
Okay.
no big deal, but do we know approximately where we are in terms of what we budgeted for snow removal and salting as opposed to what we actually spent?
I don't have it
Okay,
available,
gotcha.
but I'll get
Yeah,
that.
Okay. Item 10C, the EDEP report.
And that is the enhanced deficit elimination plan report. And this is basically the same information that is contained in our monthly financials, but Treasury requires it in a different format. And so it's just kind of regurgitated in the format that they would like to see it in. But it's the exact same information that you'll find in our regular financials, which is on page 109. So that's the same information contained in there. But I still have to submit that report to Treasury monthly until we've been out of deficit, and they said we're all clear. So they'll continue to get this report.
Well,
Mr. Burley.
You told us at the meeting, how long after we're out of debt do we have to continue to do that report?
I'm hoping only a couple of years, but yeah.
Couple of years.
Yeah.
I'll speak to that because I went to
Districts
Lansing on that.
Have to do extra reporting. And
Yeah.
I understand the rationale,
Right.
but when we don't have the staff, they, more burden on us.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what they said, I went to the, and I'll speak to this in my comments, I went to the OSR.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Robert Dwan, he's the director.
Bob Dwan, yes.
Bob Dwan. He doesn't even know, because even if you're out of it, if you are still, if all the pressure points are still there, they're still going to require you to report, although you're out. So they don't even know what the parameter is of all the pressure points of you going into that situation. So he didn't even have an answer when he did a seminar. So
There's nobody.
maybe
can give
2,
you
maybe 20, you know.
Right.
And you're right.
Yep.
Get used to it, is in other words.
Pretty much.
You know, and be honest with you, I don't think it's a bad thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's a good tracking system for us. I mean, it just teaches us to have a better habit of keeping track of our money.
Yeah.
Because apparently, the administrators before this didn't do that. So, hey, we used to doing it now. We've been doing it for the last, 4, 5, 6 years?
Yes.
Hey,
That's
fine
with
with me.
Treasury. We've been with them 3 years now.
It's a tight ship budget. I like it.
Any additional questions on the EDEP report?
Well, actually, I can read this better than the other one,
Oh, good.
okay? I'm just saying.
Actually, I think we requested the long sheet.
Oh, that's huge sheet.
Excel sheet.
Right, because you want to see it on one page.
All that, yeah.
And I
Flipping
did it.
through each, yeah, that
Okay,
hurts my eyes. I can follow it,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so how I'll do it then, because when I put it in here, I can make it bigger, but it won't be.
I mean, you
that
gotta
way.
do it every month.
No, no,
Just
no.
give me one that'll
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
what I'm
use
saying.
for the year, yeah.
I'll make the one sheet monthly and give it to you at the table because I can't, I know that big paper you don't have at home to print.
No, I ain't, yeah, that's
So,
that 13 by 10 by whatever, 13
Yeah,
by 15, whatever it is.
11 by
11 by
14.
13, yeah. Okay.
And so
All right.
what I will end up doing is give you that one sheet at the board meeting, so you'll have all of the one thing. But yeah, it prints out like this. It's bigger, but it didn't get on one sheet.
All
So,
right.
Joy, please don't let me forget that, okay?
Mr. Burley.
Just, am I missing something? I thought we were gonna put in here on a monthly basis, and maybe I'm the one that's not seeing it. And it's there, the needs.
Yes, I did forget that.
All right,
Yes,
so it's
yeah.
not here, so this
And-
is.
Right, it's not that and the calendar.
Yeah,
I was
I
giving you
just
that.
think that the needs, the building, fixing, things like that,
Yeah.
need to be there for
Yes.
our, but also, I think that this is the public's, has view of
Yes.
this, and we need to have people understand that we know that
Yes.
there are physical plant needs here.
Right.
And we need to begin to reiterate those. So I think
Yes.
that should be one of these reports that's just there all the time, that's
Yes.
either fixed or enhanced or whatever.
Yeah,
Capital needs.
right, and it will go with the contractual
However
report.
it is, but it should be
And-
titled separately?
Yes.
So people could see it.
Yes, and it will be. And I'm sorry, I did have
It
a
was
50
in our
billion
packet for the
Yeah.
business meeting. I can
And I
confirm
just-
that there was an
No, no, I
updated one.
saw
Just,
that,
yeah, okay.
But it
Yeah.
didn't make it to here.
Right, okay.
And it was an oversight on my part, because I truly meant to put it in there. So I'll make sure.
Madam Superintendent, this Excel spreadsheet, this template, is this our brainchild or this come from the state?
It comes straight from the state.
Okay,
I have, yes. That's the format that they require.
So we don't have to do nothing different. We're not
Right.
making our own thing.
No, no, we can't. They want to see it like that.
And they'll allow us to keep using it as long as we want to, even they say we don't have to use it, right?
Oh, yes. Mhm. That is correct.
Yeah, we usually just didn't send it to them, that's all.
Right.
They don't know what we use.
They don't. We just keep the same numbers.
Right.
That's true.
Okay, any questions about item D, contract listings? Seeing none, agenda item 11, policy committee. You want to take this over, Mr. Monk?
I'm gonna take it over, but I ain't reading it all.
Okay, you can just, you can just read the
Nah,
headings.
I ain't reading it all. We are bringing this is information item. All the policies listed are for first reading. They're kind of, at our meeting, we kind of put them all together. So you have 4 anti-harassment policies, you have 4 program policies, and a lot of different other ones. You want me to read the numbers? I'm not going to read the words. You just want me to do the numbers, or?
Yeah, you can just use the policy number, yeah.
Okay, all right. So,
And the heading, the policy number and the heading.
okay, all right. So we're going to look at, for first reading, we'd like you guys to kind of look at, do your homework, look at the policies. Okay, I've asked that before, so make sure everybody's reviewing the policies. You know, as they say in church, govern yourselves accordingly, okay? Policy 1662, 3362, and 4362, anti-harassment, revised. Policy number 5517, anti-harassment, revised. Policy number 2112, parent and family engagement. Policy number 2261.03, district and school report card, local only, new. Policy number 2700, PA annual report, local only, revised. Policy number 2271, post-secondary dual enrollment option program, revised. Policy number 3120, employment of professional staff, revised. Policy number 3120.04, employment of substitutes, revised. Policy number 3130, assignment and transfer, revised. Policy number 4162, controlled substance and alcohol policy for commercial motor vehicle, CMV drivers and other employees whom perform safety-sensitive functions, revised. Policy number 5330, use of medications, revised. Policy number 5460, graduation requirements, revised, and I'll come back and talk about that one. Policy number 5610, emergency removal, suspension, and expulsion of students, replacement. Policy number 5610.01, expulsion, suspension required by statute, rescinded. Policy number 5611, due process rights, revised. Policy number 8210, school calendar, revised. And we are recommending all these for first reading. I'll go back up to policy,
5460.
5460, graduation requirements. This is kind of a new policy statewide that they're implementing. This policy is revised to reflect current state law. By the way, all these pretty much are state law, state and federal law requirement for adoption. But this one, the HB 4106, requires credit be awarded for successful completion of approved internships and work experiences. SB 344 provides the option of granting STEM endorsement for qualifying students. So we have students who successfully go through the STEM program. They'll have that endorsement on their diploma as a STEM student. Kind of want to just point that out. And then also the anti-harassment, and we talked with the superintendent. She's going to two things. She's going to check with the ISD or check with legal. I'm sorry. This one she's going to check with legal to have them come in and do a seminar probably on the back to school covering anti-harassment. Anti-harassment's been coming up a lot lately. There's a lot of issues. We all know, there's a lot of issues dealing with that. And also, she's going to contact the ISD to see if the ISD will be able to bring in a speaker or somebody who can conduct a anti-bullying program for our school, for the students. So she'll get back to us on that. And at our next meeting, we will also be looking at, and we're going to need a little bit of your help, Ed, on the field trip.
All right, I'm happy. I have a week. So let's do a phone conversation if we have to. If we can't do a meeting, I can get this resolved, because we can't offer any of the things we would like to until that policy.
Well, yeah, but the information you gave us is thick, and what we have is thick, so we need to look at all of it to condense it down.
Let's try to do it this week.
So, okay.
Mr. Monk.
Yes.
I know you said the majority or all of these policies have some state code.
Yes.
So
majority,
so we have no wiggle room.
No wiggle room.
We can't.
Yeah.
But how about with the one you were just speaking about regarding policy 2261.03 and policy 2700, district and school report card local only.
If you remember,
do we have any flexibility to modify that, or are they calling it local only, but they're giving you the prescription of what it looks like?
You hit the nail on the head. You know what I'm saying? So it's something that I'm encouraged. We all need to look at that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just to see, because that's new. That's came through. They have been talking about it for a while. So now they're getting to the point where it's that okay. They want to roll this out.
Yeah, because I see it's attached to essay.
Right.
And that's federal.
Exactly.
And that's money.
Right.
And which funnels through the state.
Yep.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think I did hear you say you moved to, for first reading.
First reading,
okay.
yes.
Okay, it was moved by the committee to recommend the policies that he referred to for the first reading. Since it is a recommendation or a motion coming from the committee, it doesn't need a second, but we can put a second on the record if you want, but since it's coming from the committee, it doesn't need a second. But it is debatable, and you can discuss it, and we vote it. So are there any questions, discussion on the motion on the floor to receive the first reading of the policies mentioned by the chair of the committee? Hearing and seeing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Monk?
Yes.
Mrs. Escalante?
Yes.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yeah.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes, motion carries. Oh, superintendent's comments. Mrs. Davis.
Thank you. Okay. First, I'd like to congratulate Dr. McFadden. He's been recognized by MASB for professional development milestone. We don't have all the information yet. They said that they will be sending that to us soon. But if we can go and support him when they do recognize that, it will be great. So as soon as I get the information, we will pass that along to you.
You got to start weighing your pens, Doc. Where your pens at?
No, this is supposed to be for you, Mr. you just.
Also, our robotics team, and thank you to Ms. Jarrett. She has been very active with our team and a very welcome member of that team. They participated in their first event, and Ms. Joy has been heading that up as a district member. And so they had their first event the weekend of March 16th through the 14th through the 16th at Centerline High School. It was very well attended, students from all over. And thanks to Ms. Jarrett and Ms. Joy, they hung in there with the students and got the robot just about, is built now, right? Yeah, so I have to go look at the last product. So the kids are working really well on that, and I do want to name the members. Is Zach Pepino, and I'm sorry if I butchered the name, but Ariel Smith, Miles Crew, and Willow Beck. So their next event will be in Marysville High School, and that is the weekend of March 28th through the 30th. So thank you to Joy and Teresa for helping out with that. Also, we've had a couple of field trips for the travel club, and those guys, we got, now the robotics team is also participating in that as well. So I think we have a couple more events that we want to plan in the coming weeks, so more on that. Tomorrow, it's the Optimist Club, and we're hosting that tomorrow. We have some students that will be participating in that, and it starts at 9 o'clock with the welcome, but the registration starts at 8:30, and we will be hosting that over in the small auditorium. So if you are available to come out and hear our students, the awards will be given out by Mr. Jerry Cool and Mr. Mike Schachtel. And we have the oratorical contest. They are the co-chairs. And then Colette Cool is the essay chair. So we're looking forward to listening and hearing our students tomorrow in that. And you also have the MISD's 2019-2020 budget. Each of you have a copy of that, and we are required to review this, and it'll be a thumbs up or down at the next board meeting to approve. As the ISD cannot approve their budget until they get input from all of the districts under the umbrella of the MISD. So you do have that information before you. And I am so thankful that, I think it's today is the first day of spring, and the weather is getting a little warmer, so to see 50 degrees, 40 degrees, really to see 32 degrees, anything above freezing is a welcome change. So just want to remind people that, to be careful, because kids will be out more in the afternoon playing, so just be very careful. Watch out for all students, and by all means, as you can, get out and enjoy some sunshine. Get out of these buildings. Enjoy yourself. So with that, thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Committee reports. Dr. McFadden, Athletic Committee.
Athletic Committee, we didn't have a meeting this month, but I've been in discussion with the athletic coordinator about a few things, but what we need to do is have scheduled meeting, organized meeting. I know it's been pretty hard with different schedules and things going on. There is a need for it. It's an emergency. I won't say an emergency, but there's a need. So we're gonna put that together, and I know Superintendent is right on top of that, like white on rice.
Yes, delicious white on rice too.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any questions of the chair? Mr. Linenberry, the Community Coalition, sir.
Good evening, everyone. We've had two really big events since our last board meeting. You heard some talk about the first one, which was the conflict resolution day. That was on the 28th. 60 of our students participated. They were taken off site across the street. They were broken up in groups of 20. They got to have different speakers and different breakout groups and dealing with different types of conflict and how to peer mentor some of those problems that they have here in the school district. And they really enjoyed these breakout sessions. They really enjoyed the exercises that they went through. The kids came back. They were really, really positive. They were really fired up. And a lot of those kids are our T3, our Teen Talking Truth students, who are also our student mentors and directors during our dialogue day, which was on the 15th, which we just had. The entire high school participated. Again, we had 9 rooms. Everybody really enjoyed it. It was a really good day. The kids were all excited. Got to have some really good. A couple of them got a little emotional at the time, and it's kids start talking about what's going on, and they get very passionate about it. And it's it breaks your heart, but it's also excited that these kids have an outlet and are able to talk about these things with their friends and with 2 adults and their teachers. So another really good, successful event. We're really proud of that, and we're really happy. We will have a drug take-back day on the 28th of April over at the Wilson Gym from 10 to 2. It's the National Spring Take-Back Day, which is one of the events that the coalition sponsors twice a year. And we're also working towards our Career Day, which will be coming up later in the spring. Our next meeting will be a week from today at 10:30 a.m. So we have moved things earlier in the event, and that makes it easier for some of you to attend. We'd love to have you. And I'll take any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Is there a goal per se for the drug?
20 pounds is what we shoot for. Last 2, we have been like 25 or 30 pounds, so we're more than getting, because we can take more than just pills now. We can, because we have a sheriff officer, we're allowed to take liquids. We're allowed to take, a capsule pill, obviously, any ointments that might be expired, that, anything that has been prescribed or OTC, we can take back, so it doesn't necessarily have to be pills or capsules. We can take other types of any expired medications that we don't want, but that was a great question. Thank you for asking. And we have been making at least our 20 pounds in the last several take-back days that we've had. So people, the word is out, they know to do it. And on a personal note, we did take a couple of girls to Lansing, and our superintendent was there. That student broadcast award thing you may have heard of, yeah. It was a complaint, Ashley doesn't care for mashed potatoes and the brownies were dry. But other than uncared for mashed potato and dry brownie, I think the day was a success. We got some good video. It's already up on YouTube. It's already up on the school district channel. We've been running the heck out of that. We have a story coming up on Bass City Beats, so we're very proud of our intrepid reporters. They've got more great stories coming up, so stay tuned.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Curriculum personnel.
Mr. President, we had our meeting March 12th, 2:30 p.m. One thing that I didn't see on the board packet tonight, Madam Superintendent, because she spoke about this, about the policy for purchasing of educational material. She said she was waiting for approval on that. So, I mean, we talked about that last time. We pulled it. So we trying to get that on as soon as possible. We can start.
It was supposed to have been on there.
Yeah. And that's my fault too, because I read over this.
No, we talked about it at the policy meeting because we had discussion about it and we finalized it and it's supposed to come up for second reading.
For second reading, before we can get it approved, so they can start doing purchasing. But that came up in the meeting. It was waiting for policy approval.
Slipping, Joe. You slipped.
Yes, it's been a lot.
So the question with it not being on this board meeting tonight, let me go through my agenda notes and then we talk about that later, all right? ELL vision with high quality instruction. We talked about the blueprint phase, how it's going from the basement to the lobby. She explained it inside of building a skyscraper type of thing. That's where we at, which is mechanical phase. She gave a list. First of all, did everybody get my notes?
Yes, I thank you for those type notes, Doc.
All right. Did you get my notes, Ms. Jarrett?
I didn't see them.
Okay, I
They
think
came in typed, I didn't think they were yours, so I deleted
Yeah.
them.
I thought it was spam too, and I just was like, no, that's not from
Right.
Dave.
I was like,
Went and scribbled all over.
Right.
Scribbled on
east
the
and
next
west and
I was
north and south.
disappointed.
Read them on the,
Okay, so I'm not going to belabor this then, because everybody got my notes. I'm just hitting the highlights, the policy, what we need to look at, and I'll scribble on the next notes too, all right? Possible next meeting is going to be in April. We did talk about the attendance rates, and that was pretty well put out inside the notes. If you want me to put it out inside, go over the notes. Well, it shows 70% of student population is not chronic absence, and 30% chronic, although it shows 30% of population cannot be more than likely are repeated offenders. So bottom line is, there's a target we're supposed to hit at the state level. And most of this come on all the meetings anyway. But 70% of our student population is not shown to be chronically absent, only 30%. But the 30%, the way it's calculated, is saying 30% of the student population, but that is actually repeat offenders. So it could be like 5 or 7 kids absent or late multiple times. And that goes on to the discussion of the half days and count absent days, things like that. The IAM Academy doesn't account for our absentee rates, and that's pretty much it. So the biggest thing on this agenda that we need to talk about is that policy, because we need to get that voted on.
And we did talk about the personnel stuff that we went over tonight.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll have to send out that one policy that we talked about with Elizabeth. So that one we'll get. So if nothing else, we can get that emailed out.
And with that being, that's not going to stop the process, because she said she was
Right.
waiting on that policy for approval to purchase.
Right.
So she already know what she wanted to,
Right.
what we want to move forward with.
Because all the only thing that we added was to make sure that we're also looking at the condition of the books. So it might not be such that we need new books because a new curriculum is out. But if our books are so tattered and worn, we should be able to make a decision that we need to replace them. So it would be a replacement. But even before we're able to do that, we'll have to come before the board to say that we want to replace, especially if it's a substantial amount of money. So I'll make sure we get a copy of that to you guys tomorrow. I think I can pull that and email it to you, because we did present it to you already. And it was just one, I think we added H.
Yeah,
And it
it's
just
age,
says,
appearance, and durability.
yeah.
And the way Elizabeth explained it at the meeting, once the policy get approved, then they can come with us with a type of budget of like what's the cost of the material is going to be. Where that will go over to the business committee and policy and whatever.
Right.
Mr. Brewer.
well, this gets to your question. If it's been through the mini system, and if people believe it is necessary, will this, the fact that it wasn't approved tonight, slow it down? And if it will, can we just add it to the agenda and approve it?
Right.
So that we can then move to the
Okay.
next step of figuring out what the
Okay.
budget would be in order to move that process along?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can add it to the agenda, right? What's the policy number though? I don't know it off the top of my head.
25.
It was in the minutes. I read it.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's that policy number?
2510.
2510, adoption of textbooks.
When we talk
Yes,
about that,
revised.
well, I'll talk about it in
Should we wait or should we do this?
You the policy chair, what you say about that?
Well, what is,
Can we do that?
is,
Yeah, we've already,
Will it
we've
stop the
already had a
process?
motion on second reading. Do we need to rescind that and add that and then have another one, or what?
you can amend the agenda, because we voted on a second reading,
Right.
so that's gonna be new policy. You can amend the agenda to add something to the agenda at any time in the meeting.
Okay.
So that's that. My question is, with us not having the policy in place, how does that impact, what's trying, is it stopping them or her or he or whoever from doing the research, finding out what materials we're looking at, what the costs are?
And my answer is no, because they're still in the gathering information phase. So once they find out the cost of the materials and the condition of our current equipment, then it goes to the business committee. So it's not stopping us to vote tonight.
So my question is, and it's up to the will of the board, doesn't matter to me, add to the agenda or what, is it not being voted on tonight, does that stop anything? Because are they in a position now to recommend curriculum or books or something, whatever it is that they're working to do?
Now, from my understanding at our workshop, and what they was talking about, they are gathering information right now. They are nowhere near making a recommendation to purchase new curriculum, because we all stated that we want information why the ELA didn't work. Then you got to get research-based curriculum, bring all what books, figure all that stuff out. When this policy was brought to the policy committee for amending, it was told to us that it's going to be amended before anything comes to the board. So if it's around the corner, they talking about something that's way quicker than what they told us at the policy.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not even close.
So it's no.
Okay.
There's
No urgency.
urgency to put
Right.
it on it. Okay.
No.
I mean, only urgency I can see with this is if you're trying to get a curriculum or something that's needed for the curriculum next year, we don't want to wait till July or August to roll it out. That's the only thing I see.
Right.
But by the next board meeting, we should be fine.
Okay.
Aren't we still waiting on the state to lock in a curriculum?
Right.
So that's my question is, if we don't know what the state's
It'd be
locked in
premature to
curriculum
go
is
get
gonna
out-
be,
go out and get a
why do we
curriculum?
go out and look at books and it might
Right,
not even
exactly.
fit the curriculum? That's my only concern.
And that's why
I
it's
just
taking
want to clarify, because she added an H, appearance and durability, so that would directly relate to what we already have. My understanding was if we have books that are good, but they're falling apart, but curriculum-wise, we can utilize them if they need to order new books that are already in existence to replace them. That was what she wanted
Right.
added in and approved.
Right.
So it was basically taking inventory of what we already have, what we can use based on what we have, and then if it needs to be replaced because it's falling apart, then that's an option.
Right. So that's the only difference for that
Right.
policy.
Everything else was already on there, so.
Still can wait till next meeting. So we'll be all right.
Okay.
Those are my committee reports. Did anybody else have any questions?
I got one. Thank you for the notes again. I'm proud of you.
I'm getting better and better.
Proud of you.
Next
Trying to tell
spot,
you.
Jay, wait for the next ones.
I grew up
I'm even better
just
than
like
that one.
All that information for attendance.
Right.
Because she's going to report out to us in April at the first checkpoint of her evaluation. Can we make sure all that, I think that's pertinent information that we need to view as a board of the tardy, everything that you put in your report, that should go along with her attendance report that she's going to report out to us.
As an artifact.
As an artifact.
Madam Superintendent, remember she gave out graphs at that last meeting. Wasn't able to attach the graph, I had to go back through it. Those graphs,
Okay.
just throw those into the
Okay.
report. She gave out the breakdown of the graphs. I just gave the explanation.
Right.
But if you're a picture person, you're going to enjoy these graphs because they're very colorful. And she'll have them out there, and it should be easier to see. And what it did show that each section grouped, even though it was at elementary, middle school, and high school, was about the same. I mean, it was evident. It was like 70-30, 70-30, 70-30 across the board. I don't know how that correlated, and I did ask her to go back and break it down further. So
Right.
she has her marching orders.
We should.
And she should
The
be
data
coming
should be
back with
broken
some
down,
course
yeah.
of action.
Okay, I had a question. You mentioned that the 30% were somewhat repeats. Isn't there a computation that they do for that? Because if you're counting a student, the same student over again, that doesn't make sense. If those are repeat ones, and you're counting them basically twice, 3 times, or whatever, those repeat offenders, how does that, the computation from the students who are, 70% of our students are attending and are doing what we're supposed to do. Then you have the 30%, which are really not as many students, but it's 30%, which makes no sense to me. There should be some type of metric that's more accurate than that, than what we're coming up with. I mean, you have X amount of students in the school, you have X amount that are attending, and the ones that are not attending and stuff are, what's that number? I just don't, I'm just curious. I know there's probably not an answer, and I maybe know math, I know it for certain, sort of thing, but there's got to be a better way to pull that data out.
Well, the other part of the report that she's gonna report to us covers exactly that. We was getting it on a monthly basis, but we decided for her evaluation that she'll give it to us at all 3 checkpoints. So that's the other side of that information that we'll get at her evaluation in April. So you'll also have the data that Dave's talking about, but that data that you're talking about, she'll have that data also.
I'm going to help clarify something too for you. Maybe I'm not clarifying it for you. I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. We'll do it together. Half days count for, if you miss half a day, you're totally absent. So you can have a student come in the morning and leave in the afternoon as a full absence. But this also reported the tardiness also. So some students might not come to school first and second hour. Well, even though you're tardy, that counted as absence for first and second hour. So that counts as an absence, even though you come for 4th, 5th, and 6th hour. So it kind of skewed the numbers a little bit. And I asked her that question, like, why is the number so high, yada, yada, yada. But the way the state metrics is set up, it still counts back towards the state as being that percentage, which screws us over, because we're supposed to have a certain number of absentees and non-absentees. That's why it's so important to follow, and what we did with the policy and the attendance and stuff to follow up on it makes a lot of sense, because now we, as a whole, have more of a handle on it. So we can argue the case. It's not going to help, but we can still have an argument.
Okay.
Did that help a little bit?
Yeah, actually, that made more sense. Because I get where we're being, all the schools, and we're compared to all the other schools with this information, and that goes into the record. So, but it's still, and I understand about the half day and the tardiness and stuff, but I just think there's got to be a better metric.
And the system that we have right now, where they pull that information, it only counts the number of tardies that shows up. It doesn't count, this kid had 15. It just looks at the overall. It went in as a tardy for that day or for that hour.
Well, but that doesn't tell me trends for our students, our student body and stuff. So
Right.
you can hone in on that.
Do we have that student-specific information?
Those are the reports that I was giving you before that had to tell what we're doing. So that's what I'll be presenting in April, showing you which students have what.
So we will be able to tell student by student?
Yes, and I'll come up.
Have you noticed, just cursory, are we better off this year than last year, or we are about the same?
We're better, not a whole bunch, but we are significantly, we're
the word
better.
significant.
Yeah,
What
so
does
I
that
took
mean?
that. Okay, before parents would take their kids out of school, like the last half hour or hour of school, but now since they have to go through this process of completing this paperwork, it's
We're
not
better
worth.
there. What
Yes.
about coming in the morning? Are we
And-
better or are we the same?
Some students a little bit better, but I guess when you look at the overall scheme of things, they're somewhat the same because of the situations different students are in.
That's the discussion we had also. Yeah, it came up, your name came up a few times, actually. Nothing bad, but it was about the late tardiness, the first and second hour, and we're trying to figure out, it's a discussion that we talked about before. It's nothing new. Well, ate that up like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Any additional questions to the chair? Thank you, Dr. McFadden. Educational Foundation, we haven't had a meeting, but I forced some issues to get some information. As of December 12th, 2018, the Mount Clemens Educational Foundation has awarded $5,191.47 to teacher grants supplied to teachers in the Mount Clemens Community School District from the Educational Foundation. And the Educational Foundation, we are implementing once again this year the $500 per student Mount Clemens graduate, senior, simply applies for it. So one-page application is basically free money. You basically have to do is write your name on the application to receive the $500, but there is a commitment from the Educational Foundation to provide no less than $500 per student that applies for the Educational Foundation scholarship. And that's all I have on that as of right now. Any questions?
That Educational Foundation scholarship is how many words? Is it an essay?
No.
Just write your name.
It's more than writing your name, but basically,
Right.
that's the hardest part on it is writing your name.
And that information is, the students have access to the information at the office, right?
The guidance counselor knows about it. The building principal should be aware of it, yes.
All right, I just want to reiterate, make sure small ears are hearing. That's all.
I'm with you, yeah. Any additional questions? Got any more?
$500.
Got any more?
$500
Got
is
any more
good.
questions?
Yeah, I got senior.
Legislative committee, I will admit I opted out to go to a district basketball game as opposed to go to the legislative committee meeting, so that's my report. I went to the basketball game instead of the meeting. We won too. Mr. Monk, Policy Committee, is there anything additional that we need?
Nothing additional, let me see. We talked about, we talked about we'd like the superintendent to report out on the number of students sent out of class, infractions and violations, and evidence. This process is in effect due to the new policy 5610. So she said she'll report out on that. Then we would like to know, we talked about, because it's all kind of rolling together, the curriculum. We want to, they suggested that we go away from ELA. Why didn't it work? They should be able to tell us that. Was it information getting down to the classroom? Was it not enough PD? We need to find some type of curriculum, and I know the state's but we need to find a research-based curriculum that's going to hit the basic points of education. Whether the state makes their mind up, and what was that? They had 6, 8 different tags up on the board, M-STEP. It's all over the board. So we need to figure out what's going to hit the basic knowledge that our students need to have, and then go from there. And we talk about book inventory too, and then also safety procedures surrounding emergency evacuation and active shooting procedures. I know I've been talking about this for a while. Talked to the superintendent, so she's going to get us a report in our hand. It may be confidential, but she'll hand it to us. We got to give it back to her, but at least the board knows what the procedures are, what happens. So if any of our parents or whatever call us, we will be able to tell them. Not necessarily put it out there, because you don't want to put that information out there, but I think we as a board should know. That way, if we do receive any calls, we know how to direct people, even if it's just directing it back to the superintendent or whatever. Or hopefully, nothing like that happens. But we also said, every single time you see that on the news, what they always say, we never thought it'd happen to us. Every single school district. So we need to be more proactive as far as just getting everything together. And I know she's been working with the ISD, the sheriff department, and she's going to get to us as far as how many drills and stuff we have for that. Other than that, I'll entertain any other questions about policy. Oh, and if anybody needs to get us any information, we meet every second Tuesday of the month at 5 o'clock. That's our standing meeting date and time.
Any additional questions of the chair? Thank you, Mr. Monk. Board comments. We'll start with Ms. Escalante.
Happy spring. Right? Soon, the flowers will be coming. I can't wait. I'm ready to get out there and garden. I just want to say that I think, considering what took place tonight, it went very well. I want to thank the community that showed up for coming out and not only voicing their concerns and their support, but also the way that they conducted themselves. Everybody was very respectful. They made me more proud than I already was to be part of this district. This district gets a lot of negative PR based on rumors. And if you were in this room tonight, you can see that we were surrounded by good people. So I want to say that I think as a board, we are doing a good job. We're fair. I think you have to consider all aspects of a situation like that because it's people's lives, you know, regardless. You have to know the whole situation before you make a decision like that. So I'm confident that we made the right decision tonight, and I'm thankful to be working with people like all of you. And I think that it's only up from here. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Escalante. Mr. Brewley.
I've been attending a workshop that the Art Center has been having, not as a representative of the board, but the school district was invited to participate, and these workshops are during the day, so it made it difficult. But since I'm the only board member there, I get slated as that anyway. But you should know that they're talking about, they've narrowed it down to 4 items to talk about, one of them being schools. And so there is an interest in this workshop about how to improve education in the city. So I think they should be commended for taking up the issue because everyone is learning quickly about the reality. But they're interested and concerned and willing to help in some way. There are meeting today and tomorrow. They met in February, March, and April. And then there'll be a report. They got a grant from a foundation to look at possible ways to improve life within the city.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Ms. Jarrett.
I also wanted to make a comment about the interest this evening and how the public conducted themselves. That was very, that was really, really great to hear that the people in Mount Clemens, the students, the teachers, and the parents were really involved. So I commend them for that. I wanted to make a plug for the robotics, which actually is FIRST Robotics, and I wanted to say Joy's knees. I'm hoping that they've recovered. And by the way, this whole process, it was like a marathon, 2.5 days for their first competition. We did not have a robot built until, so they built it on site, and it was the I'm serious, it was a participation of the other teams that really helped them. This is such a great program, and I want to make a plug for number 1, if any student is interested in mechanical engineering, seriously, building mechanics, electronics, they learn about how to put these things together with the electronics. The coaches and the mentors, they would show them how to do it. The students have to do it. And software engineering, coding. So we actually have scheduled a coding class on a Saturday because that's, most of the guys that I know who code, one of them's my son, he's going to come in and he's going to show them how to program with Java, which is really great because they learn how to do this. I was so excited that they got a robot on the floor and it moved and it worked. It was so great. And and it was great because there was these, some of the robots were going up and down and they had to move things. It's a wonderful program. And so our robot played defense and defensive, it was just like sports and stuff. They had the whole 9 yards. And it's a team thing. So I really was excited to watch the team, the 4 kids that were there, Zach, Miles, and Ariel and Willow, become a team. Zach's he's the team captain, and just to understand and helping them to get organized was just, it was phenomenal to watch them do that. And every time they went up there, it was really cool. So I do have something on my Facebook about it too. So there's opportunity. There's also opportunity for the kids to possibly go to some of the summer classes that they have from Kettering. We need sponsors from the community, so I'm going to be pursuing some sponsors in the community. And the kids are working on their logo, and we're not sure if it's going to be a dragon or what. I'm not sure. It's up to them. Again, this is all them. It's not us. It's them. We're just there to help facilitate and help them do it. I'm also very excited about the Oratorical contest tomorrow, and won as a former governor for the Michigan District. I have to say this is one of the better programs that they have, and Mount Clemens, the club does such a great job, and they involve all the kids, which is really great. A lot of clubs don't and stuff. They just, it's not, this one is one of the better clubs that does it really, really well. I spring into action because summer is coming. It'll be here right around the corner. But spring into action and get things done so you can get out there and work in your garden. Maybe not me because I'm a brown thumb, not a green thumb. And once a bather, always a bather. Hoo-yah.
Thank you, Ms. Jarrett. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Rickman. Piggyback off of you. Get me you guys' logo, and I'll have my company donate the shirts and digitize the logo for you guys.
Sweet.
So just let me know. I know the owner, so I'm gonna deal with the owner. Again, thank the students, parents, and teachers for coming out tonight and voicing their concerns, comments. I went to training in Lansing, and I tell you, it was a eye-opening seminar. It was the Office of School Review and Fiscal Accountability, and a lot of things they talked about is the same things we talked about here. Same things we talked about here. And I won't prolong it, one of the things they talk about is the MDE and Treasury role regarding financially distressed schools. They got so many mechanisms that will get you into that category that, like I say, you can be out of it, but you can still have the distress signals, so you'll stay in it, although you out. So they don't even know what it is. But when does the OSR contact the district? We kind of went over that. How the budget reviews work. How does the projection model work? There's a projection model they have based on what you're going through. It got a little scientific. What happens when a district is identified? Kind of went over that. What happens when potential fiscal stress is declared? There's multiple steps to it. What are the early warning progress? But the good news is the fund balances are recovering from districts around the state. There's more districts now that has fund balances from 5 years ago. Also, great news, deficits are declining. In 2014, there was 55 districts in the state of Michigan that were in financial deficit. As of 2018, there are only 17. Now, hopefully, it'll be 16 because we'll be out of that. We're one of that 17. So, to your point, Doc, it's a good thing to be in there because you're looking at your finances and you are, it's a good thing. And I agree with you. let's stay in it, because our job is only halfway. You know, you can look at that glass either halfway full or halfway empty. Our job now, once we get out, is to stay out, because based on their criteria of what gets you in, you can be back in just like that. So I agree with you. Ed, you know, there they say prioritize district infrastructure needs. They actually talked about that, and start implementing. It will cost us more down the road, whether, you know, we have to go out for what we talked about, a possible bond, or whether we don't have a shrinking fund, or if we do get a shrinking fund, we got to, I mean, you know, we talked about it. Sometimes we are boiled away from, you know, something happens. So, yeah, we need to get that, you know, and I was thinking about this when I was at the seminar, you know, yeah, we need to get that on our, you know, table to say, okay, and we need to somehow start fixing something. I was pleased to see that the ceiling was fixed over in the middle school. I was so pleased to see that. But, you know, we need to start just doing the things that we can, you know, and fixing things now, whereas that, so we don't have 2, 3, 5 things blow up on us. And then now we just, whatever money we got, it goes back in. They talk about the school aid fund. This was an eye-opener. School aid funds, lottery money is supposed to go to the schools, right? It does.
It does.
But guess what happens?
They reduce what they give you from the general operating budget.
They back it out. It goes through the back door. Latest numbers. Community colleges in the state of Michigan for 2018-2019 will receive $408.2 million in school aid funds. Universities will receive $502 million. That's a total of $908.4 million. And guess how much K through 12 students gonna get? $614.
Dollars?
We used to get all of that.
614 million.
614 million.
Now, explain then what you mean by that backdoor assumption.
Well, the back door is that
they were gonna give you $100.
Yep.
Take $100 from the $80.
It's supposed to come out.
And it reduce what they give you
Technically,
from the
that
operating budget.
community
Right.
colleges and universities supposed to be paid out of general fund. No, they paid out of school aid fund.
That's right.
So the lottery money goes to the school aid fund, but then they turn around and pay it out to the community colleges and the universities.
That charges
A-
tuition.
Yeah, as of right now, all state aid to community colleges are 100% funded. And now the universities want more. University of Michigan, state, they all want more. 100% funded comes from the school aid fund. That was just an eye-opener.
And student aid fund is
That's
our
ours.
taxes?
Yeah.
Our taxes?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to make sure everybody else knew that.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, it's a trick in the game. It's a trick in the game. Some other things they're saying, must sustain programs that are in place. We need to really work on that. Use research-based curriculum. We talk about that. Textbooks no more than 5 years old. We talk about that as far as condition-wise. Now, another thing that they brought up that, and this is why I like going to these conferences, because you hear, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to pass this out. You hear other stories, and what they did is that when I went to the conference, because, you know, Mount Clemens registered, they actually shot a report out that gives us our expenditures as of, this is as of January 17, 2019. So it takes a look at everything. And it also has, which I like, it also have districts that are like ours. And now we can see other districts that are like ours that we can be compared to. You know, and it gives you the total expenditures, and then it gives you an average, and then it breaks it down. Ours is on the top line, Mount Clemens Community Schools. So if you take the first one, total expenditures, you know, 16.26% of that total expenditure goes to elementary. Then 4.76 go to middle and junior high, and so on and so on and so on. So I love this report. I don't know, Ms. Davis, if you can generate this report or get that report from them. I don't know. But this is the latest, and then if you go to the back page, I mean, it's got everything on there. Fall count, change, percent change, 3-year average, revenue, expenditures. It's got graduation rate on there, dropout rate on there. It even goes down and breaks the staffing out for you. What our staffing is, how many administrators, how many teachers, how many paraprofessionals. You know, this is a report I would love to see on a regular basis.
I'm working with the ISD on, and we're trying to get a county-wide software package that would, we all can utilize, and it spits this information out.
It spits this exact information out? Yes, this is great.
Yeah.
So, but it was, you know, it was a great seminar. You know, I like to consider myself, you know, when I first got on this board, I didn't know nothing. I mean, I knew something, but I didn't know nothing about school board. So in the first year, I got my 100%, I forgot what it was, I got my CBA certification in, I believe, 11 months. And it just made me much better, well-thought, database decision maker as a member of this board. I would definitely encourage all my board members to attend as many training. You know, Doc, congratulations, you know, on your, you know, award and everything. So I'm trying to catch you. I know you've been at it a little bit longer than me.
Catch me if you can.
Right. But, you know, so I will, you know, that was one of the reasons why I go out of state, but I don't want to cost the district that kind of money. But now I'm into my 200 level classes. I want to get those done. After I get those done, I want to go do my 300. And before I leave this board, I want to have my, what do you call it, Doc?
Which one?
The top one.
Or the Platinum Diamond President's Award or something?
President's Award.
You got to be out of school for like 80 years to get that.
Nah, well, we don't leave that to Earl. He been here, but we'll leave that to Earl. So.
I quit chasing the President's Award.
But I just want to report out on that seminar. It was a great seminar, lots of pertinent information. And I was sitting there taking notes. I'm like, man, this is all the stuff we've been talking about at the board, and just reinforce everything that we're doing as a district. Like I said, hopefully, you know, we'll be out of deficit. You know, kudos to the superintendent and her staff. But like I say, you know, that glass is only, I look at it, you know, half full. You know, our other half is that we got to stay out of it. We got to make sure we stay out of it, especially if we're going to start bringing back programs and, you know, getting things back that we need to. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Monk. Dr. McFadden.
I've been trying to throw a little bit here, a little bit there, whatever else is talking.
Thank you
So
for your
those are my
comments.
comments. Not just I want to congratulate the media broadcast team. If you guys don't get a chance, go on in the morning, click on YouTube. What's that? Subscribe or share, something like that. My 9-year-old tell me what it is. I think it's subscribe to their channel. I get the newscast every morning for Bather Battle. You know, that's who I Bather Battle. Bather Babble.
Say it fast.
9 o'clock at night, man. Leave me alone. I want to congrats to winning sports teams too. The basketball team. They made it to the district finals. They've been there. Been a long time since they've been there playing against Clintondale, and I'll leave that rest of the thunder for you. Scholarships and grants. I'm not going to harp on this more than what I need to. I got a senior in my household. She's leaving this year. And I'm trying to get as many scholarships and grants as possible. I'm also taking donations. Go fund me. I mean, if you want to send some money to me, then, well, send it to her. I promise you it will go all for education. It will go for nothing else. But on a serious note, scholarships and grants, our kids need to be really more self-conscious about these grants and scholarships. Even if you miss the deadline now, that don't mean you can look for other deadlines and keep applying for them. Because some of these go for, even when you're a freshman in college or whatever, you still have money available. So look for those. Also, for our students, service hours, volunteer service hours are very important. This is the best time to get it. Your neighbors out there trying to clean the yard up and get ready for the springtime. Come to the office, get your slip, and go and get it filled out. Mr. Monk, I commend you. I'm glad you're going through this board training. Fun time, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Feed you well, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
I know. I've been there. Mr. President, those are my board comments.
Thank you. I would like to say congratulations to the members of the Bath City Beat media team. I had everybody's name and their awards and the places that I'm gonna read the little scroll across as I'm driving down Gratiot, and I left out and left that separate. So Patrick, can you give us the names of those students and what their places were? Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
All right. Ashley Nelson, senior runner. First place, current events, Daughters of Macomb celebration. Ashley Nelson, senior. Honorable mention, news feature Macomb food program. Shane Thomas, senior. Honorable mention, news current events, governor luncheon. Angel Delich, who was here, junior. Honorable mention, documentary through the Pancasa. But she's from us, so
Yes.
we claim that.
There you go. All right. Thank you, sir. I had it all written down, but I forgot it. Congratulations to those students again. It's always been an award-winning program throughout the years, and I'm glad to see the students are carrying on that tradition under the tutelage of Mr. Patrick Menenberry. Kudos and congratulations to both the boys and girls basketball team. Both of them went to the district playoffs. The girls lost in the first round of the districts, and the boys team, we made it to the finals of the district, and we were in good shape to about last 5 minutes of the game. We ended up losing to Clintondale by, I think, 7 points or something like that, but it was a very competitive game. If the young men, our student athletes, if they stay together, play together, and continue to improve, we have great days ahead of us in terms of the boys basketball program. We had one senior on the team. That senior only played in 3 or 4 games before he injured his knee again. So we played the vast majority of the season without a single senior participating in the active playing on the basketball team. So we have a very young team, so I'm very encouraged of the potential that these young student athletes can bring as they continue to mature here at Mount Clemens Community School District. I like to say that I was very impressed and even more prouder of the young people that had the courage and to stand up in an open meeting, in a meeting that's being televised, stand up in public and to articulate in a concise manner their thoughts, concerns, and ideas. They were all very articulate. They didn't laugh and giggle and say, "Oh, I messed up," and then that they were prepared. And that makes me very proud of the type of students that we have here in Mount Clemens Community School District. So kudos to all of those young people that stood to the mic, and all those young people who came to the meeting to be a part of the process. Every day is a learning environment, and this was part of a learning environment that they actively took place in. And for that, I say thank you to those students. I had the opportunity to go over to Seminole a couple weeks ago, and it just happened to be popcorn day, and I go over there and volunteer my time, and it's always fun for me to deliver the boxes of popcorn to the classrooms. It was a first grade class that I walked into and delivered the boxes of the bag of popcorn, and the teacher said, "Oh, come in, Mr. Rickman, come in." So I came in and she said, "Boys and girls, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Rickman. He's the president of the board, and last month during Black History Month, we were talking about advocates, and he's an advocate for you at the school board and public education. Can you tell me who that we talk about last month being advocates?" And the first thing the student says was, "Dr. Seuss." And the teacher was just embarrassed. I fell out laughing. Because they were talking about, Martin Luther King advocate and, Rosa Parks and, all this. And when she said, "Well, who did we talk about last month being advocate?" They've already gone from February to March. And Dr. Seuss Reading Day was more current than Black History Month. And so that's what advocate, Dr. Seuss. I thought that was hilarious. But I did walk into a classroom, and I won't name the student, but that student has a parent sitting to my left on this board. And I walked into the classroom. The young man said, "How you doing, Mr. Rickman?" And all the little kids around him thought, "You know him? You know him? You know him?" He was the star of the classroom. He spoke to Mr. Rickman, and the kids said, "Do you know him? Do you know him?" "Yes, I know him." So again, I always enjoy interacting, going over to the schools and interacting with the young people. I'm not there spying on any teachers to see what it is they are or not doing in the classroom. I'm there to volunteer to help pop, bag, and disseminate the popcorn.
And I'd like to add that you also like to take popcorn with you.
Hey, I got to get paid.
I have a picture if anybody wants to see.
I got to get
It was
paid.
his birthday, so I let him fill his
my
briefcase.
labor, time is money. You say that, Mr. Monk, time is money.
Right, time is money.
And you can't give me money, so
we give you
just give me popcorn.
That's right.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
But all serious notes, at this board table, things are different on this side of the table than when you're out in the audience. We're privileged and privy to more information than the audience has by virtue of what it is that we do. We go through all the information as best we can, and we come up with the best decision that we all collectively come up with to forward the mission, the goals of this school district. Tonight was a different type of meeting because what was on the agenda. Again, my colleagues have already talked about the manner in which the audience conducted themselves. I've been in meetings like that when I've had to beat the table, a hole in the table with the gavel because of audience members being unruly or out of order. Like my colleagues have stated, that didn't happen tonight, and that's a testament of what we're doing here in Mount Clemens and the commitment that the people that were here today and how they conducted themselves, and I'm proud of every one of them. I got anything else to say?
You covered it up.
All right, thank you. Those are my comments. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Monk,
Support.
second by Ms. Jarrett. Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Ms. Jarrett?
Yes.
Mrs. Escalante?
Yes.
Mr. Brewley?
Yes.
Dr. McFadden?
Yes.
Mr. Rickman?
Yes, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 9:28 in the PM. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.